all the elders, with views upon her real estate, kept strict watch on the youngers, who confirmed their views to her personality. Now, I do not mean to say that all this, or the hundred other things which came, crowding consideration, were half as plain to me at the time as I have set them down above. Far be it from me to deceive you so. No doubt my thoughts were then dark and hazy, like an old lamp full of fungus, and I have trimmed them, as when they burned, with scissors sharpened long afterwards. All I mean to say is this, that jogging along to a certain tune of the horse's feet, which we call 3 halfpence and 2 pence, I saw my way a little into some things which had puzzled me. When I knocked at the little door, whose sill was gritty and grimed with sand, no one came for a very long time to answer me, or to let me in. Not wishing to be unmannerly, I waited a long time, and watched the sea, from which the wind was blowing, and whose many lifts of waves thought the tide was half way out, spoke to and refreshed me. After a while I knocked again, for my horse was becoming hungry, and a good while after that again, a voice came through the keyhole. "Who is that wishes to enter?" "The boy who was at the pump," said I, "when the carriage broke down at Doverton. The boy that lives at and some day you will come to seek him?" "Oh, yes, I remember certainly. My little boy with the fair white skin. I have desired to see him, many times." She was opening the door while saying this, and then she started back in affright that the little boy should have grown so. "You cannot be that little boy. It's quite impossible. Why do you impose on me?" "Not only am I that little boy, who made the water to flow for you, till the nibleu came upon the glass, but also I come to tell you about your little girl." "Come in, you very great little boy," she answered, with her dark eyes brightening, and I went in, and looked at her. She was altered by time as much as I was. The slight and graceful shape was gone. Not that I remembered anything of her figure, if you please; for boys of 12 are not yet prone to note the shapes of women; but that her lithe straight gait had struck me as being so unlike our people. Now her time for walking was so past, and transmitted to her children; yet her face was comely still, and full of strong intelligence. I gazed at her, and she at me, and we were sure of one another. "Now, what will you please to eat?" she asked, with a lively glance at the size of my mouth. "That is always the first thing you people ask, in these barbarous places." "I will tell you by and by," I answered, misliking this satire upon us; "but I might begin with a quart of ale, to enable me to speak, madam." "Very well. 1 quarter of beer," she called out to a little maid, who was the eldest child, no doubt. "It is to be expected, sir. Beer, 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 all day long with you Englishmen." "Nay," I replied, "not all day long, if madam will excuse me. Only a pint at breakfast time, and a pint and a half at 11 o'clock, and a quart or so at dinner. And then no more till the afternoon, and half a gallon at supper time. No one can object to that." "Well, I suppose it is right," she said, with an air of resignation. "God knows, but I do not understand it. It is good for business, as you say, to preclude everything." "And it is good for us, madam," I answered with indignation; "for beer is my favourite beverage, and I am a credit to beer, madam, and so are all who trust it." "At any rate, you are, young man, if beer has made you grow so large. I will put my children upon it. It is too late for me to begin. The smell of me is hateful. Now, I only set down that to show how perverse those foreign people are. They will drink their wretched, heartless stuff, such as they call claret, or wine, or Medoc, or Bordeaux, or what not, with no more meaning than sour rennet, stirred with the pulp from the cider press, and strained through the cap of our Betty. This is very well for them, and as good as they deserve, no doubt, and meant perhaps by the will of God, for those unhappy natives. But to bring it over to England and set it against our home brewed ale, not to speak of wines from Portugal, and sell it at 10 times the price, as a cure for British bile and a great enlightenment, this I say is the vilest feature of the age we live in. Madame Benita Odam, for the name of the man who turned the wheel proved to be John Odam, showed me into a little room containing 2 chairs and a fir wood table, and sat down on a 3-legged seat and studied me very steadfastly. This she had a right to do, and I, having all my clothes on, was not disconcerted. It could not become me to repeat her judgment upon my appearance, which she delivered as calmly as if I were a pig in market, and as proud as if her own pig. And she asked me whether I had ever got rid of the black marks on my breast. Not wanting to talk about myself, though very proud of doing so when time and season favored, I led her back to that fearful night of the day when first I had seen her. She was not desirous to speak of, because of her own little children. However, I drew her gradually to the recollection of Lorna, and then of the little boy who died, and the poor mother buried with him. And her strong, hot nature kindled, as she dwelled upon these things, and my wrath waxed within me, and we forgot reserve and prudence under the sense of so vile a wrong. She told me, as nearly as might be, the very same story which she had told to Master Jeremy Stickles, only she dwelt upon it more, because of my knowing the onset, and being a woman with an inkling for my situation, she enlarged upon the little maid more than to dry Jeremy. "Would you know her again?" I asked, being stirred by these accounts of Lorna when she was 5 years old. "Would you know her as a full-grown maiden?" "I think I should," she answered. "It is not possible to say until one sees the person, but from the eyes of the little girl, I think that I must know her. Oh, the poor young creature! Is it to be believed that the cannibals devoured her? What a people you are in this country! Meat, meat, meat!" As she raised her hands and eyes in horror at our carnivorous propensities, to which she clearly attributed the disappearance of Lorna, I could scarcely help laughing, even after that sad story. For though it is said at the present day, and will doubtless be said hereafter, that the Doones had devoured a baby once, as they came upon Porlock Hill, after fighting hard in the marketplace, I knew that the tale was utterly false, for cruel and brutal as they were, their taste was very correct and choice, and indeed one might say fastidious. Nevertheless, I could not stop to argue that matter with her. "The little maid has not been devoured," I said to Mistress Odam, "and now she is a tall young lady, and as beautiful as can be. If I sleep in your good hostel to night after going to Watchett town, will you come with me to Old to morrow, and see your little maiden? I would like, and yet I fear, this country is so barbarous. And I am good to eat. My God, there is much picking on my bones." She surveyed herself with a glance so mingled of pity and admiration, and the truth of her words was so apparent, only that it would have taken a week to get at the bones before picking, that I nearly lost good manners, for she really seemed